Trouble in mind, I'm so blue. I won't be blue always. The sun's gonna shine on my back door someday. I'm gonna lay my head on some lonesome railroad iron. And when the 219 comes, it's gonna pacify my gentle mind. Trouble in mind, I'm so blue. I won't be blue always. The sun's gonna shine on my back door someday. That's Trouble in Mind by Richard M. Jones, a real old blues standard. And it works really well in the key of G on the baritone. First of all, let's just look at the basic chord pattern that we've got. It's very simple. It's really just an 8-bar, 3-chord blues, but we have a couple of chords that turn into 7th chords. And we can use that to help us smooth out the progression. And in a moment, once we've gone through the chords, I'll show you how we can almost get a moving bass line with them. So the basic chords are G for a whole bar, D7 for a whole bar, and then we have these ones where they change every 2 beats. G turns into G7, then C, which turns into C7. So our first line is G, D7, G to G7, C to C7. And then our second line starts off the same, G to D7, but the last 2 bars are half bars again, but a little bit different. G, C7, G, D7. And then that takes us back to G to go round again. And every verse, chorus, whatever of this is exactly the same. So once you've got those 8 bars, you've got the whole song. So first of all, just get used to playing that pattern. Let's sing a verse together so you get the feel for it. Now when you get to that C7, you don't actually have to have the little finger on the first string. You can have it open, though in a moment we're going to use that top note as a way of helping us get to that C7. So it's worth trying to get that one down. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Trouble in mind, I'm so blue. I won't be blue always. The sun's gonna shine on my back door someday. Now you can play the song like that and sing it like that and it will sound great. But you might have noticed at the beginning I did a couple of things a little bit different. They're not complicated, but they add to the tune really nicely, so I'll show you those now. The first thing I did was, instead of going from G to G7 by moving that note down from the 3rd fret to the 1st fret of my E string, I found that note somewhere else. I found it at the 3rd fret of my D string, which means I can keep my ring finger down there for the G and add that note here as a low note. So that's still a G7, I've just moved the note that makes it a 7th into the bass. And that means that when I go down to the C, it goes down by 1 fret to the C chord and makes this nice moving bass motion like this. And then I try to continue that movement by, instead of just going from C to C7 by putting my ring finger down on the 3rd fret of the G string, I first of all put it down on the 2nd fret of the G string and then move it up to the 3rd fret. So I have my C, my ring finger goes down on the 2nd fret of the G string, which makes a C6, and then it slides up to make a C7. So that whole line now sounds like this. the second line, I basically just played exactly what we did before. The one thing to watch out for is when you get to the last 2 bars of the next line, so we have G, D7, these 2 bars, play the G with your little finger this time, because then you can put the other 3 fingers down to make the C7, then take them off again, and you're back to your G, and then your D7. Rhythm-wise, I'm keeping a very simple pattern. Really just down, down, up, down, down, up. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. But when I do my first strum down, I'm aiming for my lower strings. So I'm getting a kind of bass, chord, and bass, chord, and bass, chord, and. That helps me as well pick out those notes. So I'm using small strums aimed at the string that the movement is on to try and bring out that bass line. Finally, at the beginning, I had a little intro and an ending. The intro is very, very simple. It's doing what the vocals do when you sing. If you notice when we sang it, I went like this. 1, 2, 3, trouble in. And then we started on the word mind, trouble in mind. And that's where our first chord in our chart starts. The trouble in happens before the first beat. So if we're going to echo that, we need to do the same thing. Let's see if we can find trouble in on here. We're going to need our open D string, the 2nd fret of our D string, our open G string, then we need the note of B, which we could play as our open B string if you wanted. And bring the song in like that. I did something a little bit more complicated. I did this. Same notes, but instead of playing my open B string, I slid in to the 4th fret of my G string with my 2nd finger. And it's really important it's my 2nd finger because I can then put down a bar and my ring finger to form a 3rd fret barred G chord. The other thing I did was I put a little ending on. So when you get to those last 2 bars, after you've gone round and round and round as many times as you want to, and you want to bring the song to a close, you have this G, C7, G. Now this D7 here, that D7 is our turnaround chord. That D7 tells us we're going to go round again, and we're not. So we need to lose that, and instead we're going to replace it with a G7. It might seem a bit odd to put a 7th chord on the end because they're usually quite tense chords. They're chords that make us want to go somewhere else. But it's a bit of a blues cliche to turn your home chord, the chord of the key you're in, so we're in the key of G and we've got a G chord, into a 7th to finish it off. But it works really well if you do it this way. What am I doing? Taking my G, then I'm playing my open D string, 2nd fret D string, open D string, 3rd fret D string. And that one there, that's the G7 that we were using earlier on. And at that point, I could either just play that bottom string and leave it like that, or I could add the rest of that G chord with it. Completely up to you. So that means our last 2 bars go like this. Which is just a nice bluesy ending. I recorded this song a few years ago with my good friend Ian Emerson on guitar. I'm actually playing a banjo on the track, but the banjo I'm playing is tuned like a baritone uke. So you'll be able to play along with it in the same key and you'll hear the same kind of movements going on. I'll put a little link to it at the top of the screen. It's on another video and you can click onto that and go and play along to your heart's content. It's a really beautiful song and it makes a change from those kind of shuffly, those kind of blues. It's nice to have a slower, really rather beautiful blues. I hope you enjoyed playing this one and I'll see you again soon. Bye.